Okay, I accidentally ended it. Sorry about that. Whoops. Hey, Dimitri. No problem. Glad to do it. It's kind of fun every once in a while. Oh, Mike, you were probably playing with Brandon. Brandon is like the Scrabble champ. Uh, hey, Julio. But anyway, so this is Aves Epoxy. You can see in the background. It's 10.5 inches tall. So that gives you an idea. We got the skull monster. His head just fell off. That's all right. Monster back there. Yeah, Mike, he is he loves his Scrabble. Yeah, definitely. He loves his Scrabble, that's for sure. He plays online with a bunch of people. Yeah, Russ, we're looking forward to it too. Monster Palooza is our show now. We've stopped going to Comic Con. Just kind of over it. And Monster Palooza is awesome. Everybody at Monster Palooza is into the genre, into monsters, into statues, into sculpting. They're there to see it. So it's a fun crowd. It's right in that Pasadena, Burbank, Hollywood type area, so you get some of the big wigs walking through. Well, you know what it's like. But I just mean for other people. Yeah, Ken, Aves is a tricky beast. It is, goes through several stages, and some people are not crazy about it. But I would tell people to order it and try it, and you can at least use it on some horns or something like that. Dimitri, this is Apoxie Sculpt, Aves. It's a two-part thing we mix up. And a lot of times we'll use Sculpey medium blend or Sculpey firm. But we like this Aves a lot too. In the last couple of years, we've been working in it a lot. No, Gary, when you mix it, you've got about 2.5 to 3 hours before it becomes unworkable. You can still like press a tool into it at 3 hours, but it's not going to move a lot. But at first it's really soft, but then at about an hour, I would say it's Sculpey-like. It's similar to Sculpey medium blend. Yeah, it does smell like corn chips. It sure does. And a lot of places will use it like museums because it's super strong and dense. But we just get it off of Amazon, and it's it takes a little getting used to. Hey, Guido. Guido has done some of our forum banners. So we thank him for that. Thank you, Guido. Really appreciate those. Yeah, and we wear these vinyl gloves to mix it, and I'd say for about the first hour or so. After about the first hour, it's not so sticky anymore that it's going to adhere to your fingers and start trying to cure in your pores and stuff. Hey, Bruce. Thanks, man. Yeah, some of your videos have inspired me to turn on the camera some nights. Why not? Gary, actually, this does have wires in it. A couple of weeks ago, we did a video, and it's on our YouTube channel now, called Making an Armature. Our YouTube channel is just Shiflett Brothers or something like that, but we made an armature, and this is that armature. So it was in there. It was on the shelf the other night, and threw some aluminum foil on it so that this thing isn't solid. It's got a bunch of... Actually, I've got pictures of it, which we'll post at some point. So there is wire in it, and it's this kind of almalloy. Maybe a little bit of this thicker stuff. You can see this wire coming out of his feet. And yeah, Bruce, it's fun to turn it on, and I always see a lot of stuff through the camera. A lot of stuff. What solvent are you using to create that liquid slurry? Water. There's a cup of water right here next to me, so I can dip my fingers in there, and it takes away, like if you go to put a piece on, and it'll kind of be sticky, but if you have a little water on your finger, you can pull your finger away easier. And so that's just a little, it's just nice to have the water. Yeah, whether it was Super Sculpey or Aves, we would bulk it up. We would build an armature out of wire and floral wire. Lots of floral wire like this. This stuff is the best. So we make the armature, the skeleton, out of this kind of wire, bind it with the floral wire, add aluminum foil, just normal aluminum foil, so that there's just no reason for it to be Aves all the way through, because it'd be a waste of material, and so just a lot of the belly. Yeah, Felix, that's one of the things, is you can sand it, you can carve it, you can Dremel it. So I've got this gnarly looking round number 2 blade, and I like a round blade because it feels more organic. And so you can just whittle away on this. You can plane it, you can carve into it, whatever. And you can sand it, and we wet sand it just like Sculpey. We get some sanding sponges, and we put it under the sink and use as much water as possible so that you're not leaving little micro scratches. I don't know if Shahar is watching anymore, but I watched that great live art doll artist bash the other night. And that was pretty entertaining. They didn't know what material it was going to be. It ended up being plastiline. And they didn't know what animal they were going to have to sculpt. And it ended up being an aardvark. And so it was pretty laid back. And it's kind of, it's good to have on while you're working. They're kind of just talking shop and talking about the four sculptors are just kind of talking about what they normally do with their work. But so this is going to be really unfinished because we're just going to throw this up on eBay. But some of these little round action lines are just too fun to not do. No, Ken, this will be a one-of-a-kind that we put on eBay. Yeah, we wouldn't mold it without the license. If somebody who had the license came to us and said, hey, make a Juggernaut, hell yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, those licenses. We're kind of picky about that. We could have done a lot of whatever, Hulks or Wolverines or whatever, but we're just kind of picky about the licenses. But I couldn't find a picture of Juggernaut with the crystal of Sidorak in his chest, but I'm sure I've seen it, so that's how I like to do it. Whatever it's called. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So Brandon is saying these should be bolts, which I was just going to make them kind of round things. They might be bolty. Will there be a link to the eBay page? There sure will be. Thanks for asking, Manny. I'd say in the next couple of days or a week. We're not going to put a lot of work into it because it's just there's really other stuff we're working on. Though as tempting as it is to just keep making the suit go up higher and higher, that's about as high as I'm going to go. One guy I like to look at for the Juggernaut is Paul Anderson. That's a strong man from the earlier part of the 20th century. He just had a funny shape to him. I can see through the camera how far this is. So I'll mark this like this before I take it into the Dremel room. And I'll just take all that out. But when it's really in this early, like I just mixed this up probably maybe 20 minutes ago. So when it's in this early, still this first half hour, yeah, you can put some water on it. And then dip a paintbrush in the water and just kind of smooth it out like that. Like isopropyl alcohol would do to Sculpt. And that goes away pretty quick, though. Certainly within the first 40 minutes. There's some weird stuff happening right in here that I'll get rid of. And I'm really just trying to make it as 3D as possible. These little dots here coming along this side. Thanks, Ramsey. Are just me just putting stuff in there, trying to bring it out as close to me as I can get away with, really. And just making it more and more 3D as opposed to really flat. Thanks, Julio. At Jersey Fest. Now, I always get those confused. Jersey Fest and Resintopia. We did one of them. I think we did the one that doesn't exist anymore. and it was fun. We met a bunch of people because we don't ever go to the East Coast as much as we used to. We did Chiller a couple of times way back when. That was a relevant convention. And then we did Toy Fair one year. And but I think Jersey Fest had Bowen there as one of the guests, so that's pretty cool. Jersey Fest. And then I've watched a demonstration by Troy McDevitt. That was a demo from Jersey Fest, or one of them, and that was good. That was real good. People should watch that if you're doing, just have it on in the background as you're working. But he does about an hour's worth of talking that is all pertinent. I thought it all made sense. Yeah, we like him. He was a big part of the old forum, and he's really consistent. All his stuff, he never does anything that looks crazy. It all looks good. And if you want like a Marvel character, he's going to do you right. It's going to look like that character. That left eye is kind of big. Looks kind of anime-ish. So it'll probably be more menacing, God willing. And kind of crazy, because I like the... Juggernaut to look a little crazy. Yeah, well, that's as good as you can do, really. Jordu or Simon Lee or somebody, Steve Wang, they're right there at the top. Yeah, Gary, well, the Juggernaut is fun because he's so thick from top to bottom. It's kind of fun. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the weight real low on him. You know, when you see those, the World's Strongest Men, their weight is like down here. They're not like a bodybuilder who's biggest like up here. So a little bit lower. Oh, good, Julio. That's good to hear. You know, we have not tried Monster Clay yet. And that kills me because the guy is so nice who makes it. Arnold or Andrew or whatever his name is. The guy is just a sweetheart. And there's a lot of products. The beeswax putty that Stefan makes. The C/5 that Adam Bean makes. There's a lot of stuff that I always feel like we're a piece or so behind that we need to try. But we have not tried Monster Clay yet. But we've seen some amazing stuff in it. Like Simon Lee does a lot of cool stuff in it. So, and this kind of goes back to, we don't make molds. So we have to be able to send something through the mail to a mold maker. So it has to either be Aves or a polymer clay that we can bake hard. It's got to be something that we can break down into pieces, send through the mail to a mold maker. So that Chavant, Monster Clay, Plastiline, all that stuff is kind of off the table for us in our process. We haven't tried the Aves epoxy paste yet, but we're so enamored of the Aves epoxy sculpt that I bet it's pretty good, sight unseen. But we do need to order some of that. I love the ordering stuff from Amazon, man. It's often there like the next day. That's sweet. But I know I've seen some top guys working with that Monster Clay, so there's got to be something to it. So now I'm just trying to get a couple of wrinkles that will show, exactly where the top and bottom of his shorts here are. And this is going to be the bottom. Yes, the gut and the touching of the thighs are just kind of real life things. A lot of times it's the little awkwardnesses, the awkwardness that brings us in. Yeah, like I was saying, even if you don't do your whole piece in Aves, by the time you work with, and just mix up a little bit at first. Don't mix up a bunch because you'll waste it. Just mix up a little bit and let it go through its curing process of about 3 hours. And keep poking at it, keep looking at it, carve into it, and then you'll start to get your mind around, okay, this is what it's got a 3-hour process. It's going to be like this, it's going to be too soft, then it's going to be like Sculpty, then it's going to be too hard. And you will find a use for it. Whether you do the tips or, dragon wings, or you do your teeth in them, you do horns, you do a sword in it. Somewhere in your process, you'll be able to fit Aves in. I watched the whole DVD for C/5, and it's amazing. We haven't tried it yet. But we really admire Adam just for making clay. Everybody thinks about making a clay or something, but the people who really do it, I'm always impressed with. Yeah, no, Amy, it's this 2-part epoxy. I think it comes in a couple of colors, but this is great because we spray painted this, about an hour or so ago. And look how you can barely tell the difference between the clay and the primered. I mean, it's almost the exact same shade. See, this is the clay, and that's the primered piece. And it's the same with Sculpt Firm. If I pulled out some Sculpt Firm, it'd be the same shade too. It's amazing. But he's got a crazy eye right now. One thing we do is we'll give him one crazy eye and then one peaceful looking eye. No, the gloves suck. I hate working in the gloves. I go through a ton of them. They're not good to work in, but I'm becoming numb to it. I've heard of a couple of people having reactions to the epoxies, which technically epoxy just means two of something you're going to mix together. So I always say 2-part epoxy, but really it's kind of redundant. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different kinds of just Bondo. What I'd like to find is a Bondo, like we use the Plumbers Putty. And it takes about 5 minutes. I've got some here. This Odie Fix-It stick takes about 5 minutes to cure. Maybe a couple of minutes more. The Aves takes about 3 hours. So I'd like to find something in between there. This is the Plumbers Putty we get from a hardware store. And it's good for making the inside of the armatures and stuff. I'm not sure we've tried the nitrile. You know, I wear gloves to handle this almaloy, because I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you touch this almaloy and then look at your fingers, there will be some shiny stuff on your fingers. So if you're just making one and you're never going to touch it again, that's fine. But like, we work in this stuff all the time, so when I unroll some almaloy, I'll have some gloves on. I like the vinyl gloves because they just seem less sticky to me. Felix, we haven't tried the smooth-on products, to my knowledge, because we don't mold and cast our own pieces. So maybe our pieces were cast with smooth-on products by one of our mold makers. So it could be that we used it and we didn't know it. Or it was used on our stuff and we didn't know it. And there will be a little bit of trickery here where this should just be a round circle above his eye, but we'll use it a little bit to make him look angry. And that is artistic license. But not too much. Yeah, I tried to fix my truck seat with JB Steel. JB Weld Bond or whatever that stuff is. How do we get Sculpey firm to grab onto the armature? So when we have, say this is going to be, okay, well, if you look on our YouTube channel, Shiflett Brothers YouTube channel, you will see how this armature was made. It's called Making an Armature. We put it up a couple of weeks ago. But basically, we wind this floor wire up one way, and then we wind it back the other way. So when it creates these little X's, then we super glue that. Super glue, super glue, super glue. And so now the material is going to stick onto that way easier. It's going to grip onto that. Oh, Felix, the smooth-on epoxy putty. Okay, good to know. Yeah, very good to know. And that's why I mentioned it. It's because I knew at some point somebody was going to tell me. A product that was mid-time. Yeah, worked 1.5 hours. That's great. I love that. I'm going to order some of that and some of the epoxy paste. So like this what I would call the metal part of the helmet, we've already filed with a big file and then sanded with a extra rough, and then a rough, like 3 grades of. That's why some of it every once in a while has that little shine to it. But these little veins don't matter. If they look good later, we'll leave them. If they don't, I'll just carve them off. And the arm isn't going to go a whole lot further back. That's probably as far back as it's going right there. And then just eyeballing it. That's definitely as far as the back is going. No, Amy. Yes. You don't have to carve, but you can carve it. So like I've got this And one thing we do, like I call this planing, when you have it like that and you're... And that'll get you a pretty smooth surface, but it does leave some filth and muck. And with this Aves, we'll do a lot of filing. So like we'd get this under the sink and just file the heck out of it. Clean all this up and then get the big sponge. Go over it again. And then we get the little sponge. These little sanding sponges are great. Normally we'd have this in the sink and we'd wet sand it with water. Sand, sand, sand. Maybe some homemade tools to get up underneath. And then we'd be dipping this in water so that, again, you're not getting those micro scratches. And so we'll sand the top of this. Probably the shiniest spot will be right here. And then we won't sand the arms barely at all. And then we will sand the bands. And that's what's great about this Aves. If I sit here with some water and sand the hell out of these bands, it's going to look a lot different than the skin. So that way when you go to paint it as metal or whatever, it will look pretty convincing. Like the little crystal of cider rock where he gets his power. I'll make one and then sand the heck out of it to where it's real shiny. And then implant it in here. I'll hollow this out some more. Then implant it. And that way, it'll be a little point of detail where everything, your eye goes right to it. So, how to manage time with the Aves? How many? This probably has about, well, the Armature was an hour, probably, and then he probably has about 15 hours in time right now, and we're building on that. So, when it's all said and done, hopefully not more than 25 or 30 hours. Because we're really working on other stuff. We're trying to finish the skull monster for Monsterpalooza. The real thing we're doing is the Nirasawa piece, the Steve Oil Rain Nirasawa design that's from Creature Core. So we're doing that for the Wonderfest in Japan. and generally getting ready for Monster Palooza, which is in April. So my point being is that we don't want to spend a bunch of time on this. The Armature was kind of sitting there, and so now he's got a crazy eye, and that's what I wanted, a crazy eye. And the brow is subtle, but it's there. We don't want him to look too inquisitive. He's the Juggernaut. Yeah, Monster Palooza, it's really gotten a lot better in the last couple of years. We did 3 years in a row. I think we did the second one, the third one, and the fourth one when it was still over in Burbank. And then we missed a couple of years, and then when we came back and it had switched buildings, man, there are some good setups now. There's some big setups. And you've got the Ironhead Studios, Jose Fernandez. Got Steve Wang's company, does a great setup. Elite stuff. Jordu has always got an incredible setup. And then you've got all the makeup stuff, and that's great. It's not what we do, but I enjoy it. We watch Face Off, and we like Face Off, and we like all those people, the judges and all them. So the makeup, I like it being there, and it's a quality show. You know, you go to some shows and it's all t-shirts and mystery boxes, and I'm kind of over that. So I love a show. Like, we went to a LuxCon and every booth was art. Every single booth was some kind of homegrown artist. Here I am. Here's my stuff. And that makes for a way better show to me. Yeah, it's tough for us because we're in Texas. So we're always a long ways from wherever the show is. And with all the sculptures and stuff, it's tough. So all this needs to be dremeled down some. This is just a hair low for me. I don't know how it looks on camera, but it's just these knuckles are just going to get dremeled. Boom, boom, boom. Down. Thanks, John. Appreciate that, man. So some of this stuff I'll Dremel out when I take it to the Dremeling room. I'll just kind of mark it with whatever I have around so I'll remember. Take out some. And even though his arm is fairly relaxed, it'll still be kind of flexing just so I can bring up the heads of... Hey, Joe. What's up, man? Yeah, I've been watching Joe's videos too. Joe and Bruce D. Mitchell. And I love seeing into somebody else's kind of mind and their workspace. And like I saw Bruce Mitchell twist the wires, and he was saying how much stronger that is. Well, we've never done that, but that's just the kind of tip. You never know what somebody's going to say. So I've really got to start spacing these lines out. Yeah, Joe, are you going to Monsterpalooza? You'd love it. Yeah, put the wires in a drill and twisted them. That's what he did. And I thought, oh, okay, I see you. Yeah. You're not going. Well, you're the man. I know how many shows you go to. But you would love it, that's for sure. One year you ought to check it out. Because like I said, it's just getting better and better. If you went a couple of years ago, you know, it's really, the tone has changed. You're getting the big booths set up in there, and yeah. Comic-Con, man. We went to Comic-Con, I think, 25 years, 26 years. And it's been very good to us. But we're kind of over it, yeah. And the crowd's changed. You know, it was the crowd when we first went in 91, and then 10 years later, and then 10 years later, the crowd's just changed. You know, it's more like a Disney World crowd or something, where a lot of people are there for Twilight and the new CSI or whatever the TV shows are, and it's not really a comic book show or even an artist show like a LuxCon. Yeah, no, I hear you, Joe. Yeah, I like the vibe at Monsterpalooza. You know, two biggest lines for autographs were Elvira and the guy who played Jason Voorhees in the second movie. I'm blanking on his name, but... Well, Brandon has been talking about Dragon Con. They got past the stuff with the promoter, and they have a new promoter now, so that's over with. I think that's why we had never really done it. I know that's why we had never really done it. But now, you know, people say it's a lot of fun, so... Thanks, Joe. Yeah, Atlanta Dragon Con. But they got the stuff with the promoter where the funds aren't going to him anymore. And so that was kind of a hitch for us. It's all about the crowd, you know. Yeah, Joe, we'll see you at one of these shows sooner or later, man. And so, however long I've been working, let's call it an hour and a half, the Aves is just starting to lose its stickiness. So it's just now starting to kind of not want to stick to itself, or not want to stick to itself as much. All right, well, my camera keeps saying power low, so I guess my phone needs to charge in. But I appreciate everybody watching and everybody participating in the forum. Thanks a lot. And we'll see y'all again soon. Bye-bye.